Hello, students. And we are in the midst of continuing in our next topic here, which has to do with the plant kingdom. Just by way of quick reminder, we have discussed various kingdoms of organisms so far this year. We have covered the monarans, the bacteria. We've learned about the protists, the one-celled organisms. We've learned about the fungi, like me. And we are currently now on the plant kingdom. We're going to be spending another couple of topics in the plant kingdom before we move into our fifth and final kingdom of organisms for the remainder of the year, which are the animals, the animal kingdom. So without further ado, let's get right into our next topic, which is in the kingdom Plantae, land plants. So today we are going to be talking about some general introductory information on land plants. Tomorrow we'll talk about two kinds of land plants. On Wednesday, we'll talk about roots, stems, and leaves. And finally, on Thursday, we'll do a little lab activity with land plants, preparing you for your weekly quiz on Friday. So let's make sure your books are opened and you are ready to take some notes down on land plants. When we think of land plants, we probably have certain images that come to mind. Maybe some of you think of these kinds of plants when you think of land plants. So looking at this picture here, can you name some of the different plants that you see? All right, maybe you mentioned grass, the flowers, the trees, and shrubs, lots of different kinds of land plants. Well, in order to be considered a land plant, well, it probably goes without saying, but you can't live in the water. You got to live on the land. That's certainly one of the requirements. But let's go through a brief list today about some of the requirements that land plants need to achieve in order to survive on the land. Because there are several things that land plants need to do that those primitive plants we talked about in the past don't have to do if they're just living in a very aquatic environment. So first and foremost, land plants need to provide support. Remember to copy this down in your notes. Land plants need to provide support. Again, they are not being suspended in a body of water. So if they are not to collapse, they need to be able to support themselves somehow. And we'll be learning about these structures here called the stems later on this week. But land plants need to provide support so they don't collapse. Number two, very, very important. Land plants need to obtain water and minerals. Water and minerals. In the primitive plants we've talked about in the past, being immersed in the water, just the cellular structure of those primitive plants were enough to absorb the water and minerals, the nutrients they need to undergo photosynthesis just from the water around them. Land plants? Not so easy. Land plants have to get their water and their minerals from another source, and so they are specially adapted to obtaining water and minerals. Number three, they need a transportation system. They need to be able to move or transport their materials, in specific terms, food, water, and minerals, from one part of their body to another part of their body. So if If these structures here on the bottom of the plant are obtaining water and minerals from the soil, let's say, they have to get that material, that water and minerals, up to the other parts of their bodies. And likewise, if a plant is producing food here in the leaves, that food has to be transported to other parts of the body as well. So, land plants have to have a transportation network. They've got to get materials from one place to another. Next, they have to prevent water loss, or more specifically, prevent excess water loss. Now, if you can picture a cactus, where does a cactus grow? Yeah, in the desert, right? Deserts, by definition, are very, very dry places. So, these desert environments where there's not a lot of moisture, if there's any plants that grow there, like a cactus might, then that cactus had better well be adapted to surviving in really dry conditions. Meaning, if it only rains a few centimeters in a whole year, that plant had better be able to not only absorb that water and transport that water, but it better keep that water inside of its body so it doesn't evaporate out and have the plant shrivel up and die. Otherwise, it won't survive in a dry environment. Now, even if a plant doesn't exist in a dry desert-like environment, plant still has to be able to prevent water loss in order to avoid dehydration. I mean, think about it. Even you yourself, have your lips ever gotten really chapped in the wintertime, for instance? Maybe you are dehydrating a little bit because all of that moisture inside of you is just evaporating out from your skin in the wintertime, and you don't even realize it just because it's cold. So it doesn't have to be hot and dry for a plant to prevent water loss. Plants around the world in any environment have to do this. All right, number 5, perhaps the most interesting to you might be getting the sperm and egg cells together. We are going to be talking a lot about sexual reproduction in plants next topic when we get to the flowering plants. But even basic land plants need to be able to get their sperm and egg cells together in order for reproduction to take place. And we'll see how that takes place with some of the land plants we're talking about this week. Why is that important? Well, unlike the primitive plants where they're just immersed in water and it's easy for reproduction to take place, land plants can be separated by distance. And if there's not a mechanism in place for the sperm and the egg cells to get together for reproduction to occur, well, that would be the end of that particular species. So I've got a video for you that I would like you to watch when you are finished writing these notes down. I'd like you to check out the video regarding the reproduction of one of the basic types of land plants. So that's all of our notes for today. You have a great afternoon. I'll see you